Don't touch me, please.
Came over.
Do not touch me. Damn, man.
I think the reason that the organizers used the phrase Black Lives Matters was not because they said they were suggesting nobody else's lives matter. Rather, what they were suggesting was there is a specific problem that is happening in the African American community that's not happening in other communities.
The Black Lives Matter movement began on social media when George Zimmerman was acquitted for shooting African American teenager Trayvon Martin. Since then, the movement has continued to grow and gain support as a result of a plethora of similar cases, such as the notable deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson and Eric Garner in New York City. The hashtag surfaced as a way for people to share their own experiences or opinions on the issue of racism in our society, specifically pertaining to African Americans and their interactions with law enforcement. However, as support continued to grow, so did opposition.
But for me, I think it means a lot of history and context. I think sometimes people quickly go to all lives matter, which I agree with. All lives matter. I just think all Black Lives Matter has a kind of a little different history with some of the context of, whether it be, slavery or civil rights movement.
For me, Black Lives Matter is just a movement, and to be honest, for me, it's kind of hard to differentiate between all lives matter and Black Lives Matter, because my personal opinion of it is just that all lives do matter, and so people who identify with the Black Lives movement are 100% accurate in doing that. I think that all lives matter.
All Lives Matter looks not just at African Americans, but also all different racial groups and all different groups across society, and seeing that there are many different problems just as African Americans are facing.
I mean, all of us should have a place in society, a safe place in society. I'm having a hard time with Black Lives Matter, simply because I think all lives matter. I do understand that there has been and there still is a problem with some of the law enforcement, and but I don't think this radical movement is going to help them in any way. And I think it has alienated so many people that they've just turned a blind eye to it. I think maybe if they had taken a different approach, I think the idea behind it is very noble, but I think the way they're going about it is very dangerous.
On December 3, 2014, Penn State students took to the Hub to act on a die-in during which they laid on the ground for 45 minutes to represent the 4.5 hours spent by Michael Brown in the street after he had been shot and killed. This act made a huge impact on the Penn State community as it made us aware of the controversy at hand. This act also received an immense amount of support and major backlash from the community, furthering the idea that Penn State serves as a microcosm of the nationwide controversy.
Are we even upholding the Constitution of the United States of America that I'm standing on that says?
I think our students, need a little bit more education. That's just my take on it, because I don't think a lot of our students understand when they hear the term Black Lives Matter. I don't think they really get it. I think they're seeing like a Ferguson, and they may kind of look at that particular situation and only think about that scenario, but they don't think of the broader issue. So I personally think, even when we have our demonstrations and protests, I think there should be much more engagement. I think it's a great opportunity for an audience.
Here is President Barron standing with several members of the Black Caucus, posing in the hands up, don't shoot gesture that has become known across the nation as a symbol of the Black Lives Matter movement. He was quoted as saying, "My first reaction, and the one that is going to be lasting for me, is how incredibly proud I am of these students and the way they express themselves. It was thoughtful. It sends a very clear message. It sends a very meaningful message."
I know I'll be on the go, and it ain't no drink out there that can numb my soul. Oh no. All we wanna do is take the chains off. All we wanna do is break the chains off, man.
All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is break the chains off me.
The controversy here stems from the fact that the All Lives Matter movement came as a response to the Black Lives Matter movement. While most people that represent All Lives Matter do so in a respectful manner, Black Lives Matter participants find it aggravating and believe All Lives Matter supporters are missing the historical context of the origin of the movement, as well as the racial disparities of the criminal justice system, and therefore are missing the whole point.
Where many officers across this country are finding it very difficult to do their jobs. Not difficult because they don't want to do them, they want to do them. But every time that officers go out here, make an attempt to do their job, want to do it well, there's this appearance, there's clearly this feeling, and I think we all experience it as well too, and we all see it whether we want to acknowledge it or not. They're under just scrutinized to a point where it does make them hesitant. It does make them wonder if they're going to be able to get through a shift.
Crime like bacon, pigs in a blanket. Crime like bacon, pigs in a blanket.
For many, many years, black people have been under attack. I find it very offensive that people are going to say this chant has led to the deaths of officers. There's been plenty of rhetoric.
But are you condoning that? You don't condone that language, do you?
I mean, here's the thing. It might not have been the best chant, but I'm not going to tell someone what they can say or what they can't say. What I don't condone and what I feel is very offensive is that we're being connected to people we don't know, people who aren't a part of the movement. And what's even more offensive is that there's all this uproar about a chant. And if you can remember back to the New York City Police Department, who wore shirts saying, "I can breathe," mocking the death in the last few words of Eric Garner.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
The question now is when, if ever, the two movements will reach a resolution. Democratic Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley said, "The point that the Black Lives Matter movement is making is a very, very legitimate and serious point, and that as a nation, we have undervalued the lives of black lives, people of color. We have a lot of work to do to reform our criminal justice system and to address race relations in our country."
Till our stomachs burst, we had teachers who taught us how to raise our hands in class and not just to signal surrender, and that the only thing we should give up is the idea that we aren't worthy of this world. So when we say that Black Lives Matter, it's not because others don't. It's simply because we must affirm that we are worthy of existing without fear, when so many things tell us we are not. I want to live in a world where my son will not be presumed guilty the moment he is born, where a toy in his hand isn't mistaken for anything other than a toy. And I refuse to accept that we can't build this world into something new, some place where a child's name doesn't have to be written on a t-shirt or a tombstone, where the value of someone's life isn't determined by anything other than the fact that they had lungs, a place where every single one of us can breathe.